What if civilization was never progress, but a trade? For tens of thousands of years, our ancestors lived a life that's almost unimaginable to us now. They had no cities, no borders, no rulers telling them what to do. They were nomads, moving with the rhythm of the seasons. They hunted, they gathered, and most importantly, they survived together. Imagine a world with no taxes to pay, no prisons to fear, no kings or emperors claiming ownership of the very land you walked on. Life was undeniably harsh and uncertain, but it was also profoundly free. Then, about 10,000 years ago, something fundamental shifted. Humans began to settle down. We stopped wandering and started planting seeds in the ground. We built permanent homes, structures meant to last for generations. These first small settlements grew into villages, which then swelled into towns, and eventually exploded into the first great cities. And from these cities, empires were born, stretching their influence across the globe. We call this story progress. We call it the dawn of civilization. But what if that's not the whole story? What if this great leap forward was also a great sacrifice? Think about the trade-offs we made. In exchange for the security of a steady food supply, did we give up the fundamental equality of the hunter-gatherer band? For the stability of a permanent home, did we accept the control of a ruling class? In our quest for comfort and convenience, did we slowly, almost unknowingly, surrender our freedom? There's no denying the incredible gifts of civilization. It gave us writing, allowing us to pass down knowledge through generations. It gave us breathtaking architecture, art that moves the soul, and a scientific method that unlocks the secrets of the universe. Without civilization, none of the world you see around you would exist. But it's a package deal. Civilization also brought things our ancestors never knew. It created rigid hierarchies, with a few at the top and the many at the bottom. It gave us organized warfare on a scale previously unimaginable. It baked inequality into the very foundation of our societies and created complex systems of power and control. For centuries, we've been taught that the rise of civilization was humanity's greatest achievement, a straight line of improvement from a primitive past to a glorious present. But maybe it's more complicated than that. Maybe the hunter-gatherers, who lived in balance with their world for millennia, had a form of wealth we've forgotten, a wealth of time, of community, of autonomy. They worked far fewer hours than the average farmer, or even the average office worker today. Their lives were dedicated not to accumulating possessions, but to strengthening social bonds and experiencing the world. When we look at the problems plaguing our modern world, the immense gap between rich and poor, the environmental crises driven by our insatiable consumption, the feelings of alienation and loneliness in our crowded cities, it is hard not to wonder if the roots of these issues lie in that ancient transition. Did we trade a sustainable, egalitarian existence for a path of relentless growth that has led us to a precarious point? Did we choose the pyramid over the circle? So, the real question isn't just how civilization began. That's a story of archaeology and history. The more profound, more challenging question is this. Looking at everything we've gained and everything we've lost, was it a mistake? Was the invention of civilization the moment we took a wrong turn? This isn't about wanting to go back to the Stone Age. We can't. But by questioning the very foundation of our world, we can start to imagine how to build a better future. A future that maybe, just maybe, recaptures some of that freedom and equality we left behind so long ago. What do you think? Was civilization our greatest triumph, or our original sin? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. The first topic is, before walls, there was freedom. Have you ever wondered what life was like before cities? Before kings? Before even the idea of owning anything? Before we built walls, we had something else. A radical kind of freedom. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors weren't farmers or they were nomads, living in small tight-knit groups, constantly on the move. Imagine a world with no borders, no fences, no private property signs. The land didn't belong to anyone. It simply was. The rivers, the forests, the vast open plains, they were a shared home for all. In these early societies, survival wasn't an individual sport. It was a team effort. The core principle was cooperation. If you found a patch of ripe berries or tracked a large animal, you didn't hoard it for yourself. You brought it back to the group. Why? Because your survival depended on everyone else's. The person who shared their food with you today might be the one you rely on tomorrow when your own hunt is unsuccessful. This wasn't just a nice idea. It was a fundamental law of existence. Sharing wasn't an act of charity. It was the social glue that held their world together, ensuring the entire group had a better chance of seeing the next sunrise. This deep-seated instinct for cooperation is still with us today, a faint echo from a time when we truly needed each other to live. Now, What about power and leadership? We're so used to thinking in terms of presidents, CEOs, and rigid hierarchy. But for our ancient ancestors, leadership was fluid, and there was no single chief or king who held absolute power for life. Instead, the person who led was the person best suited for the task at hand. When it was time to hunt, the most skilled and experienced hunter would naturally take the lead. Their knowledge of animal behavior and terrain respected by all. Their authority began and ended with the hunt. When the group faced a difficult decision, like where to move next, or how to deal with a neighboring group, everyone would turn to the wisest elders. Their life experience was the group's most valuable database. If someone was sick, the person with the most knowledge of healing plants would become the temporary authority. Power wasn't seized. It was granted by the community, based on proven skill and wisdom. It was a meritocracy in its purest form. This social flexibility meant that extreme inequality, as we know it today, was incredibly rare. Of course, some individuals were more respected than others. A great hunter or a wise storyteller would naturally earn high status. But the nomadic lifestyle itself acted as a powerful equalizer. You could accumulate vast amounts of wealth because you had to carry everything you owned on your back. There was no point in hoarding thousands of tools or animal skins if you had to move camp every few weeks. This prevented the massive gaps between the rich and the poor that define so many modern societies. Archaeological evidence from hunter-gatherer burial sites often shows that most people were buried with similar, simple grave goods, suggesting a far more egalitarian existence. Life was a shared journey, not a race to accumulate more than your neighbor. This was the essence of early human life, a profound freedom. Freedom to roam across vast landscapes, freedom from the rule of a permanent authority, and freedom from the pressure of material wealth. But this freedom came at a price. It was a life lived on the edge, a life of constant vulnerability. Without permanent shelters, they were exposed to the elemensta, freezing winters, the scorching summers, the violent storms. A sudden drought could wither the plants they relied on, and a harsh winter could drive the animal herds far away, leaving them on the brink of starvation. They had no way to store large amounts of food for the long term. Their pantry was the land itself, and its bounty was never guaranteed. This vulnerability was a constant companion. A simple injury, like a broken leg, could be a death sentence if you couldn't keep up with the group. A new predator moving into the area, or a conflict with another nomadic band could mean disaster. There were no walls to hide behind, no armies to call upon, no grain silos to see them through the lean times. Their existence was a delicate dance with nature, a continuous cycle of adaptation and movement. Every day brought new challenges and new uncertainties, and it was this very vulnerability, this deep-seated need for security and stability, that would eventually set humanity on a completely new path. It was the crack in the foundation of their nomadic freedom, a crack through which the seeds of civilization, of agriculture, of walls and rulers would begin to grow, changing the course of human history forever. The desire to trade that constant risk for something more predictable would ultimately lead us to give up the wild freedom of our ancestors, and that trade-off is a story for another time. The second topic is the farming revolution. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived a life on the move. They were wanderers, hunters, gatherers, constantly chasing their next meal, following the herds, and learning the rhythm of the seasons. Their world was vast, untamed, and dictated by nature. Then, something profound happened. A shift so monumental it would rewrite the human story forever. It wasn't a sudden cataclysm or a celestial event. It was a simple seed, planted in the soil. This was the dawn of the agricultural revolution. Imagine the sheer power of that idea. Instead of spending every waking moment chasing food, you could grow it right outside your door. Instead of endlessly moving, you could finally stay. This wasn't just a new technique. It was a promise of control, a way to tame a wild world and bend it to human will. Early farmers discovered that by planting seeds, tending to them, and waiting, they could secure a food source. It was a gamble, of course. They were at the mercy of the weather, pests, and the sheer unpredictability of nature. But when it paid off, the reward was staggering. For the first time in history, humans experienced something truly revolutionary, a surplus. They had more food than they could eat in a day, a week, or even a month. This surplus was the catalyst that ignited civilization. Think about it. When not everyone has to spend their entire day finding food, society can diversify. New rows begin to emerge from the fertile soil of the first farms. Some people, freed from the daily grind of hunting and gathering, could focus on other things. They could become builders, using their hands and ingenuity to construct permanent homes, granaries to store the precious surplus, and walls to protect their newfound settlements. Others could become artisans, crafting better tools, pottery to store grain and water, and textiles to clothe their communities. The surplus didn't just feed bodies, it fed innovation, and with new roles came new structures of power. Someone had to manage the surplus. Someone had to organize the labor for planting and harvesting. Someone had to make decisions for the growing community. This led to the rise of leaders, organizers, and eventually, rulers. The first villages began to grow into towns, and towns into bustling cities. The surplus of grain was the fuel for this urban explosion, allowing for dense populations and complex societies unlike anything the world had ever seen before. But this new way of life came with a hidden cost, a trade-off that would echo through the millennia. The very thing that gave farmers stability also tied them down. The fields of wheat and barley became both a lifeline and a leash. Unlike the hunter-gatherer who could simply move on if resources grew scarce or danger appeared, the farmer was bound to the land. Their crops required constant care, watering, weeding, and protection. Their stored grain, the very symbol of their prosperity, became a tempting target for raiders and rivals. This attachment to the land gave birth to a powerful new concept: ownership. This patch of earth is mine. This harvest is mine. This required protection, and that meant defense. Walls were built not just to keep out wild animals, but to keep out other humans. The first armies were likely formed not to conquer distant lands, but to protect the home fields. Land, once a shared resource for all, became a possession, something to be owned, inherited, and fought over. And once land became valuable, once it became property, a new and darker side of human nature began to flourish. Conflict followed. Disputes over boundaries, water rights, and stolen grain became the seeds of war. The very surplus that allowed for specialization also created a new kind of division: inequality. Some people owned more land than others. Some controlled the surplus and wielded immense power, while others toiled in the fields with little to show for it. The social structure of the hunter-gatherer band, which was relatively egalitarian, began to crumble. In its place rose a hierarchy. At the top were the kings, priests, and warriors who controlled the land and the grain. In the middle were the artisans and merchants, and at the bottom were the vast majority of people, the farmers, whose sweat and labor supported the entire structure, often under the thumb of those above them. The agricultural revolution fed civilization, but it also fed inequality, social stratification, and organized conflict on a scale never before imagined. So, was it worth it? Did we make a good deal when we traded the freedom of the hunt for the security of the harvest? This is one of the great debates in human history. On one hand, agriculture gave us everything we associate with civilization: cities, art, writing, science, and the complex societies we live in today. Without it, the world as we know it would simply not exist. It allowed our population to explode, to spread across the globe, and build wonders. On the other hand, some scholars argue it was humanity's biggest mistake. It introduced disease that spread rapidly in crowded settlements. It led to a less varied diet, and, for many, a life of harder, more monotonous labor than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. It created the social hierarchies and inequalities that we are still grappling with today. The farmer was, in a sense, domesticated alongside the wheat. The story of the agricultural revolution is not a simple tale of progress. It's a complex, dual-edged sword. It gave us the power to build empires, but also the reasons to destroy them. It filled our bellies, but also created the divisions that set brother against brother. It's the foundational story of our modern world, a story of trade-offs, of unintended consequences, and of the profound, world-altering power of a single, planted seed. Understanding this revolution is understanding the very roots of our society, its triumphs and its deepest flaws. The third topic is the rise of power. Ever wondered how we got here? Not just you and me, but all of us living in these complex societies, with governments, laws, and different social roles. It's a story that starts thousands of years ago, not with a bang, but with a seed. A single, tiny seed. Imagine a world without cities, without kings, without even the idea of a boss. For most of human history, we were wanderers, hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons. Our communities were small, and everyone knew everyone. Survival was a team sport. You shared what you found, and others shared with you. Power wasn't about owning things. It was about respect, experience, and wisdom. An elder who knew the best hunting grounds, a healer who understood plant steeds, were the leaders. But their leadership was fluid, temporary, earned day by day. Then everything changed. Around 10,000 years ago, we figured out how to plant that seed. This was the agricultural revolution. We learned to cultivate crops to domesticate animals. For the first time, we could stay in one place. We stopped chasing our food and started growing it. This was the birth of the settlement, the village, the foundation of everything to come. Life became more predictable, but also more complicated. In a hunter-gatherer group, everyone had a direct hand in getting food, but in a farming village, roles started to specialize. Some people were just better at farming, producing more food than their own family needed. This surplus was a game changer. It was the world's first form of wealth. And as soon as there was wealth, a new question arose. Who gets to control it? This is where the idea of power really starts to take root. The family or group that controlled the surplus food in the communal granary suddenly had immense influence. When a drought hit or a harvest failed, everyone would turn to them. They controlled survival itself. This wasn't just temporary respect anymore. This was tangible, life or death authority. The hand that gives the grain is the hand that rules. At the same time, as villages grew, they became targets. Other groups, perhaps still wandering or less fortunate, would see these stockpiles of food and resources. This created a new need: defense. So, another group of specialists emerged, the warriors. They were strong, skilled in combat, and dedicated to protecting the village. They controlled safety. If you wanted to sleep soundly at night, you needed their protection. Now we have two pillars of a new kind of power structure: those who control the food, and those who control the force to protect it. It's a powerful combination. Over generations, what started as a practical necessity began to solidify. The family that managed the granary became the ruling family. The best warrior became the chieftain or the general. Their children inherited not just their land, but their status. Hierarchy was no longer temporary. It became permanent, passed down through bloodlines. But there was a missing piece to this puzzle: justification. Why should one family rule over others? Why should everyone listen to them? This is where a third group comes in. The priests. They acted as intermediaries between the human world and the divine. They claimed to speak for the gods, and conveniently, the gods always seemed to agree with the people in charge. The ruler wasn't just a ruler. They were chosen by the heavens. Their authority was now backed by divine will. Disobeying the king wasn't just a political act, it was a sin. And so, the blueprint for civilization was drawn. At the top, you had the rulers, the priests, and the warriors, that elites. They lived in comfort, protected and supported by the system. Below them were the artisans, the merchants, and the scribes. And at the very bottom, forming the vast base of this social pyramid, were the farmers and laborers. They were the engine of the entire society. Their relentless work produced the surplus that fed everyone, that funded the armies, that built the temples. Civilization brought incredible advancements. We built magnificent cities, created beautiful art, developed writing, and made amazing scientific discoveries. It gave us structure and a sense of collective identity. Order replaced the chaos of a nomadic existence. But this new order came at a cost. For the first time in human history, a great distance was created between people. Some lived lives of luxury and leisure, because others worked from sunrise to sunset. The communal spirit of the small tribe was replaced by a rigid class structure. Equality, once the natural state of things, began to fade into a distant memory. The very system designed to bring people together and ensure their survival also created deep and lasting divisions. This tension between the benefits of structure and the loss of equality is a story that has played out again and again throughout history. From the first farming villages, to the great empires of Egypt, Rome, and China, to the nations we live in today, the fundamental questions remain the same. Who holds power? How do they justify it? And what is the price paid by those at the bottom? The rise of power wasn't a conspiracy or an evil plot. It was a slow, organic process. A series of logical steps taken to solve the problems of survival and scale. But each step, while solving one problem, created a new one, leading us down a path that has shaped the very fabric of human society. It's a legacy we still live with every single day, in our governments, our economies, and even in our own sense of place in the world. The fourth topic is security at a cost. Have you ever wondered why we live the way we do? Why we pay taxes, follow laws, and live in cities with millions of other people? It's a question that goes right to the heart of what it means to be human. And the answer is a fascinating, complex story about a grand bargain we all made thousands of years ago. Let's rewind the clock. Imagine life as an early human. Your world is full of uncertainty. Every day is a struggle for survival. You're constantly on the lookout for predators, rival tribes, and the unpredictable whims of nature. There's no guarantee you'll have food tomorrow, or even a safe place to sleep tonight. This was a life of ultimate freedom, in a way. You answered to no one, but it was also a life of constant, gnawing fear. Then, something incredible started to happen. Humans began to gather. They discovered that by working together, they could create something that no single person could. Security, they built walls. Simple at first, maybe just a wooden palisade. But these walls were a revolution. For the first time, a community could sleep with a profound sense of safety, protected from the dangers lurking in the darkness. That feeling of safety was addictive. Walls were just the beginning. To protect these burgeoning settlements, people formed the first armies. These weren't just random groups of fighters. They were organized forces dedicated to defending the community. And to fund these armies, a new concept was born. Taxes. People contributed a portion of their harvest or their labor, not for themselves, but for the collective good. For the first time, individuals were investing in a shared future, in a communal security blanket. But security wasn't just about physical threats. The chaos of human interaction also needed taming. So, we invented laws, rules that dictated how people should behave, how to resolve disputes, and what was considered acceptable. These laws brought order to the chaos. They organized society, making interactions predictable and reducing social friction. Suddenly, you didn't have to constantly watch your back around your neighbors. There was a system, a framework for living together peacefully. This combination of walls, armies, and laws created what we call civilization. It was a powerful new operating system for humanity, designed to systematically reduce uncertainty. Life became more predictable, more stable. The constant, low-level hum of existential dread began to fade, but this newfound security came at a price. It wasn't free. The bargain was this. In exchange for security, you had to give up a piece of your individual freedom. You had to obey the laws, even if you disagreed with them. You had to pay your taxes to fund the army, whether you wanted to or not. Your labor might be called upon not just for your own benefit, but to build grand monuments or public works that served the larger state projects that reinforced the power and identity of the collective. The individual, once a sovereign unit, was now becoming a component in a much larger machine. Your life was no longer entirely your own. It was intertwined with the lives of thousands of others, all part of a complex system. Your personal freedom to do whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, began to narrow. In its place, collective security expanded. This was the great trade-off, and it has defined human history ever since. And once a society masters this formula, once it becomes organized, secure, and powerful, it rarely stays put. The very systems designed to create internal stability often fuel external expansion. Why? Because a larger territory means more resources, more taxpayers, and a larger buffer zone against external threats. Growth becomes synonymous with security. So, these powerful civilizations began to expand. They encountered other tribes, other settlements, other ways of life, and often this expansion wasn't a peaceful negotiation. It was conquest. The organized, powerful society, with its armies and its efficient systems, would overwhelm smaller, less organized groups. They would conquer in the name of bringing stability, in the name of progress, in the name of spreading their superior way of life. Civilization, the very thing born from a desire for safety, began to spread across the globe. Often by the sword. Think about the Roman Empire. It brought the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, to a vast expanse of the world. It built roads, aqueducts, and legal systems that endured for centuries. But it achieved this through brutal military campaigns and the subjugation of countless peoples. The security and prosperity within the empire were built on the loss of freedom for those on its frontiers. The trade-off was enacted on a global scale. This dynamic didn't end with the ancient world. It's a recurring theme throughout history. We see it in the rise of nation-states, in the age of colonialism, and even in the geopolitical tensions of today. Nations justify their actions on the world stage by claiming they are ensuring their own security or promoting stability. The logic is ancient and powerful. We must control our environment to feel safe. So where does that leave us today? We are the inheritors of this bargain. We live in a world of unprecedented security, at least for many of us. We have police forces, legal systems, and social safety nets. We don't have to hunt for our own food or build our own shelters. We have handed over these responsibilities to the larger system. In return, we accept a vast web of rules. We stop at red lights. We pay a significant portion of our income in taxes. We are subject to laws that regulate everything from our businesses to our personal lives. We have traded a significant amount of personal autonomy for the stability and safety of modern life. The question for our generation, and for every generation, is, Have we struck the right balance? How much freedom are we willing to trade for how much security? This isn't a settled question. It's a constant negotiation. Every time we debate government surveillance, public health mandates, or economic regulations, we are relitigating the terms of this ancient contract. When a government passes a new law to increase surveillance in the name of national security, we are faced with this trade-off. Do we accept a little less privacy for the promise of more safety? When a community debates zoning laws that restrict what you can build on your own property for the sake of neighborhood cohesion, that's the trade-off in action. There is no easy answer. Too much freedom can lead back to the chaos and fear of our ancient past. But too much security can lead to a world of oppressive control, where the individual spirit is crushed under the weight of the system. A world where the walls we build to keep danger out also become our prison. The story of civilization is a story of this delicate, often difficult, balancing act. It's the story of our ancestors choosing security over absolute freedom. And it is the story we continue to write today with every choice we make as a society. Understanding this fundamental trade-off is key to understanding our world, our history, and ourselves. It's the silent contract that underpins our entire existence. The fifth topic is progressive trade-off. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a huge question, one that sits at the very foundation of our modern lives. Was civilization a mistake? Now, I know what you might be thinking. Look around. We've got smartphones in our pockets, planes that can take us across the globe in hours, and medical science that can save us from diseases that once wiped out entire populations. How could any of this be a mistake? And you're right, the achievements of civilization are staggering, almost beyond belief. Think about it. We went from huddling in caves to building skyscrapers that touch the clouds. We developed writing, which allows us to pass down knowledge through generations, to read the thoughts of people who lived thousands of years ago. We created philosophy to ponder the deepest questions of existence, and engineering to reshape the world to our will. From the aqueducts of Rome to the algorithms that run our social media feeds, human ingenuity seems boundless. This narrative, the story of progress, is the one we're all taught. It's a story of humanity's triumphant march from savagery to sophistication, from darkness into light. And for a long time, that's where the story ended. It was an open and shut case. Of course, civilization was good. It was inevitable. It was progress. But what if that's only half the story? What if, while we were busy building our empires and writing our histories, we were also losing something fundamental, something we didn't even realize was gone until it was too late? That's the question we're going to explore today. Let's peel back the layers of this grand story of progress and see what we find underneath. So, let's go back, way back. Before cities, before farming, before kings and taxes, for the vast majority of human history, we were hunter-gatherers. Our lives were dictated by the seasons, the migration of animals, and the ripening of fruit. We lived in small, nomadic bands. Anthropologists who have studied the few remaining hunter-gatherer societies today have found some surprising things. Their lives weren't necessarily the brutal, short, and miserable existence we often imagine. They worked far fewer hours than the average office worker today, maybe 15 to 20 hours a week, just enough to secure food and shelter. The rest of their time was spent on leisure, socializing, storytelling, and play. Their societies were remarkably egalitarian. There was no concept of hoarding wealth, because you couldn't carry much with you anyway. Everyone had a role, and resources were shared. There were no bosses, no landlords, no rigid social hierarchy. You were connected to your small group, and deeply connected to the land you lived on. Now, I'm not trying to paint a perfect, utopian picture. Life was undoubtedly hard. Danger was real. A broken leg could be a death sentence, and a bad season could mean starvation. But they also had a kind of freedom we can barely comprehend today. The freedom to move, the freedom from the pressure of accumulation, the freedom of a life lived in the present moment. Then, about 12,000 years ago, something changed. We call it the agricultural revolution. We figured out how to domesticate plants and animals. Instead of following the food, we made the food come to us. On the surface, this seems like a brilliant move. A stable food supply. We could finally settle down, build permanent homes, and support larger populations. And that's exactly what happened. Villages grew into towns, and towns grew into the first cities. But this revolution came with a price tag, and the bill was steep. First, our diets changed, and not for the better. Early farmers relied heavily on a few staple crops, like wheat or rice. This led to nutritional deficiencies that hunter-gatherers, with their varied diets, didn't experience. Skeletons from this period show that early farmers were often shorter, less healthy, and had worse teeth than their foraging ancestors. Farming was also incredibly hard work. Clearing fields, planting seeds, weeding, and harvesting was a back-breaking, dawn-to-dusk job, far more demanding than the foraging lifestyle. For the first time, humanity was tied to a piece of land, and when you have land and surplus food, something new emerges: ownership, and with ownership comes inequality. This is where the social fabric of humanity began to unravel and reweave itself into a completely new pattern. Once you can produce more food than you need to eat, that surplus becomes a form of wealth, and someone has to control it. This led to the rise of a new class of people: priests, warriors, and kings who didn't work the fields but controlled the grain stores. They offered protection or spiritual guidance in exchange for a share of the harvest. This was the birth of taxes, of social hierarchy, of the haves and the have-nots. Suddenly, humanity was divided. For the first time, you had a ruling class and a working class. For the first time, you had systemic poverty living right next to concentrated wealth. And with this new structure came new problems. Large populations living in close quarters, alongside domesticated animals and accumulating waste, became a breeding ground for disease. Epidemics that would have been impossible in small, nomadic bands could now sweep through a city and kill thousands. Civilization gave us the crowd, but it also gave us the plague. And what about conflict? While hunter-gatherer bands certainly had disputes, organized warfare on a massive scale is largely a product of civilization. When you have land, resources, and stored wealth, you have something to fight over. Armies were formed not just to defend territory, but to conquer new lands and enslave new populations to work the fields. The state, that powerful entity we now take for granted, was born from this need to organize labor, collect taxes, and wage war. So we gained stability, but we lost equality. We gained surplus food, but we lost our health and leisure time. We built cities, but we also created the conditions for epidemics and organized warfare. It starts to sound less like a story of pure progress and more like a massive trade-off. We traded freedom for security. We traded simplicity for complexity. We traded the wild for the field. The author Yuval Noah Harari famously called the agricultural revolution history's biggest fraud. He argues that we didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. We became trapped, tethered to our crops, our lives dictated by the relentless cycle of planting and harvesting. And this trade-off has echoed through the centuries. Every major advancement in civilization seems to follow this pattern. The Industrial Revolution gave us mass production and incredible new technologies. It also gave us polluted cities, brutal factory conditions, and a new kind of economic slavery. It further disconnected us from nature and from the products of our own labor. Today, the digital revolution connects us globally in ways that were once unimaginable. It gives us access to all of human knowledge in an instant. But what's the trade-off? We're seeing rising rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. We're caught in endless cycles of comparison and competition on social media. Our attention is a commodity, bought and sold by corporations. We're more connected than ever, yet many of us feel more isolated than ever. We've built a world of incredible comfort and convenience, but it's a world that often feels stressful, overwhelming, and deeply unequal. So, was civilization a mistake? Asking that question is a bit like asking if a river made a mistake by flowing to the sea. Maybe it was just inevitable.